Hello everyone, I am Anakin Blitz coming back for another World of Tanks Blitz video, and today we'll be having a look into the two Chinese tanks that are being sold into the store currently for the WZ Blaze and the WZ-112 Glacial, not Celestial. And I'm just going to be telling you whether these are worth getting and overall some things about these tanks. So starting off, we're just going to get straight into this, starting off with the WZ Blaze, and you're going to see here the offers. Fire and Ice offer is being sold currently in the store, and for a bundle of 7,500 gold, and I'm going to be talking about both of these tanks and letting you know which ones are worth it. And yeah, so the WZ Blaze, in my opinion, just getting straight into this. Well, before we get into is it worth it, we're just going to look at the WZ Blaze itself being sold for a price tag of 3,000 gold, which is actually an insanely cheap deal because that is actually really cheap. 3,000 gold, even a lot of free-to-play will basically have 3k, so it's a really cheap tank to get. But the thing is, you're going to get into the stats, and you're going to see an interesting type of tank. It's a tank destroyer in tier 7, a 400 average damage per shot with a 180. It's just it's a pretty typical type of tank. You have a decent damage per minute, not a crazy amount though. It's actually not terrible though. You have a decent accuracy, actually. It aims in rather quickly, which is nice. And the mobility is actually really nice as well, so that's a nice little thing. It's kind of a fun little tank because it's got a fun little gun that kind of gets that mobility, and the armor is not really crazy, but it's not terrible either. But it's just basically this little fun, kind of unique tank destroyer in tier 7, but the now, is it worth it? In my opinion, it is not worth it. It's 3,000 gold, sure, so it's a really cheap price, but in my opinion, it's just not really worth it. Keep in mind that this is a tier 7 tank, and tier 7 is absolute cancer with smashers, annihilators, Dracula's, Helsings, all of those tanks in tier 7. So yes, this tank is not a terrible tank. In fact, it's a pretty strong tank, but when you compare it to any of those other tanks, it's just really not going to be too fun going up against them. And your penetration is actually a bit disappointing. 185 standard millimeters is not the best amount, and of course you have tanks like a Tiger 1 which can do more penetration than you, which is a bit disappointing. But you're going to see this 400 average damage per shot is very nice for tier 7. You're going to be able to do a lot of damage, as well as being able to reload in time to get more shots in, and the mobility is also nice to get around. And yeah, overall it's a pretty fun tank to play, but in my opinion, not really worth it unless if you have 1,000,000 golds, unless if you really wanted this tank or any of that. But yeah, that is the WZ Glacial there. So, not Glacial, why did I say Glacial? The WZ Blaze. So yeah, that is the fire part of the bundle. And next up after this replay, both these replays are by Willy Wonka 8747 in the Empire clan. And next up after this replay, we have the WZ-112 Glacial by Willy Wonka as well. So we're just going to finish off this replay here with this one Tiger 1 and this Tiger P remaining on the enemy team. Cap points are pretty much going to guarantee a victory, and you're going to see it's a 6v2 situation. It's just going to get one final shot right into the rear of that Tiger 1, finishing him off, and they hit 1,000 cap points, winning this game with a 2.5k average damage, or not average damage, I'm not sure why I can't talk today, but yeah, and then there's a classic. So now we're going to look into the second replay here, the 112 Glacial. And this is the second part of the bundle. As you can see in the offers, the ice part of the bundle, and you're gonna see that this is being sold for a price tag of 5,500 gold, which is also an insanely cheap price because this is a tier 8 premium tank, and you're being sold, or it's being sold for 5,500 plus a garage slot and 9 equipment slots and an avatar. So that's actually a really nice deal. So that is the WZ-112 Glacial. Now we're going to take a look at the stats on this tank. You're going to see it's a typical, very, very typical Russian/Chinese IS heavy with a 400 average damage per shot on the 122 millimeters, some average penetration, average damage per minute, average armor, and average mobility on an IS heavy. It's just your typical IS heavy in tier 8, really. Nothing too special about it, and it's not a terrible tank though. In fact, it's actually a really nice tank, and it's got decent mobility. In fact, I think it's a little more than the average IS heavy that you're going to get on the mobility. The gun is just pretty much average though, and pretty much everything else is average on it. The armor profile is actually pretty nice though. you will, the frontal hull armor is actually really nice. The side armor is decent as well, and the turret armor is really strong, of course. But you do have 2 cupolas on the top, which is a bit disappointing, a bit annoying, because tanks like the WZ-112 Celestial don't have cupolas. But this tank is still a really strong tank. Now we're gonna look into some other things here. We're gonna take a look at Blitz Hanger first to start off. So let me get into the Blitz Hanger screen. All right, there we go. Let's just close these annoying ads. All right, so the WZ-112 Glacial has a pretty much, you can see the average stats are very average here with the 2,000 damage per minute is about average for an ice heavy. It's not that great, but keep in mind a Kronwagen has just about the same amount. Penetration on standard ammo is really low, sitting at only 215. That means I would definitely suggest running calibrated shells, because calibrated shells are going to improve and increase your penetration, and you're going to have a 226 standard penetration, which is still, in my opinion, a bit low for a tier 8. Now we're going to look at the premium penetration, which is really nice, sitting at 297 on heat. Just so that you know, that's pretty much more premium penetration than the tier 10 IS-7, which is actually insane. You have a crazy premium penetration, which is actually a really nice part of this tank. Something that kind of is really nice. HE is just an average HE that you're going to get. And the dispersion, the aiming time, the accuracy is obviously not going to be good, because this is a Russian/Chinese heavy. After all, it's an IS heavy. It's a 122mm. You can't really expect the best of accuracies there, and you have a 6 degrees of gun impression, which is about average for a IS heavy, because pretty much any IS heavy has around 6 degrees. Some have 5 degrees. So obviously you won't be able to hold a ridge line or a gun depression position effectively, but you will be able to hold down a bit and hide your hull, because you have a strong turret though. But keep in mind that, again, you have those 2 cupolas. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look into Armor Inspector real quick, just showing the overall armor profile of this tank. So we're going to see just a typical Russian heavy armor profile. You're going to see about, on level ground, it's going to be about a 280-ish millimeters on the upper plate effective armor, which means that any standard ammo in tier 8 will not go through. You will have to load gold if you want a chance of going through. So it's actually, the upper plate you can see is actually really strong. But now we're going to look into the lower plate, sitting at only 210 millimeters. Obviously, pretty much anything is going to be able to penetrate that. Even some tier 7 should be able to really penetrate that. So that's going to be a bit of an issue. But the lower plate is pretty small, way smaller than like an Object 252U or an IS-3 or an IS-5. So that's a nice thing, is at least the lower plate is not crazy large. Then you're going to look at the side armor. If you're in a side scraping position, you're going to see that the side armor is pretty good. You're not really going to be pinned too much unless if people HE splash you. The upper plate is also going to be really, really strong, and you won't have to worry about the upper plate ever. And the lower plate is going to be increased to 236, about 230 plus millimeters, which is nice, because that means most tier 8s won't be able to pin you on standard ammo in the lower plate either, which is a little nice. But your side armor is not as strong as like some other Russian tier 8s, which is a bit disappointing. You won't have as strong side armor as some, but it's still a pretty decent amount of side armor. Turret armor is obviously good. You can see 581 is an auto bounce, easy bounce there, but keep in mind you have 2 reasonably large cupolas here, and these cupolas are really going to be annoying, because people will penetrate you in the turret at times. It'll be extremely annoying when that happens, but that's just how it goes. You need to always, of course, wiggle your turret around if you want to get guaranteed bounces. So now we're going to do one last thing before we end this video. We're going to compare the WZ-112 Glacial to the WZ-112 Celestial. Both are very similar, but also a bit different Chinese tier 8 heavies. So we're going to see that the damage per minute is identical. You're going to see the exact same damage per minute, the exact same penetration on standard, and the same alpha, of course. All that stuff is pretty much the same. Now when we get into premium shells, you're going to see the exact same premium ammo as well. These tanks have the exact same gun, basically. Now, for the dispersion and accuracy is also pretty much the exact same, except the WZ Celestial has 1 more degree of elevation, which doesn't really matter too much. But here is the part that makes, in my opinion, one of the reasons that make the Celestial way better than the Glacial. That is the fact that it goes 42 kilometers per hour top speed, which is 10 kilometers per hour faster than the 112 Glacial, as well as a 5 kilometers per hour faster reverse. That's a really nice thing. But look at the WZ112. Glacial has slightly, not that much of a difference, a slightly better power to weight ratio, which can sometimes help out, not really too much though. It also has some better effective, all that stuff is basically a bit better. Repair cost factor is just a bit better, but other than that, these are extremely similar tanks, but you're going to see that the Celestial easily outperforms the Glacial when it comes to overall stats, performance. And yeah, in my opinion, the 112 Celestial is way better because not only do the stats on paper are better, also it doesn't have cupolas. Some people don't realize that, but it is very much true. You're going to see, let me go to the WZ112 Glacial, or Celestial, I mean. Look, no cupolas. You don't have cupolas. For example, like the IS-5 has one cupola there. You have like the Object 252U, which I can't even find where it is. This one has 2 large cupolas there. The WZ Celestial is none of that. But this is not a video about the WZ Celestial. This is a video about the 112 Glacial and the WZ Blaze. So in my opinion, the WZ Blaze is not worth it. In my opinion, the WZ 112 Glacial is worth it, but it's a bit tricky to, or it's a bit worse than the 112 Celestial, but still a really fun tank to play. That's really all I have for you guys today, though, in this video. I hope you all enjoyed. By the way, someone applied to the clan. Whoever applied to the clan, you are on YouTube. Congrats. Yep. Alright. Well, yeah. That's all I have for you guys today, though. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I am Anakin Blitz, and I will see you in the next one.